Alrighty, class, we reached close note 16.3 on radical reconstruction. Make sure you're on top of your work, make sure you're staying healthy, and let's get a ball rolling. The Reconstruction Acts. The big one I want you to know, the Military Reconstruction Act imposed martial law. That means the federal government went down there and Southerners weren't allowed to do much, and that was meant to ensure the rights of African Americans were not infringed upon by radical Southerners. President Johnson vetoed the Reconstruction Acts. However, Congress easily overrode his vetoes. And the Reconstruction Acts also helped ensure that the Southern states would ratify the 14th Amendment. Want to make sure that would actually happen, which would grant citizenship to former slaves. The Radical Republicans passed the Command of the Army Act to limit Johnson's military powers. He would have to have Senate approval to pretty much do anything. And another one, the Tenure of Office Act, prevented Johnson from removing officials based on their political affiliation. A lot of times, officials, the president has that right to remove certain people. We've seen our current president do it quite frequently. And in response, Johnson was like, "Phooey, I'm going to remove the Secretary of War." And the radical Republicans, specifically in the House of Representatives, were outraged and drew articles of impeachment, and Andrew Johnson became the first president to be impeached. They did not, however, remove him from office. They only missed by one vote. All right, the 15th Amendment. Ulysses S. Grant was elected president, and that means there was less resistance for the radical Republicans to push their Reconstruction efforts. They wouldn't have Andrew Johnson stepping in their way. The 15th Amendment provided African Americans the right to vote. The amendment stirred lots of controversy. For one, some of the people who even tried to draft the amendment originally supported the amendment were upset because it still allowed the South to disenfranchise African American voters by pushing for poll taxes, which the African Americans couldn't afford, or literacy tests, and many were uneducated, did not know how to read. Women who supported the abolitionist movement were also upset because they were not granted the right to vote. So the amendment did stir some controversy. So let's get into women's suffrage. Two names you should know: Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton. These women activists did support the abolitionist movement. They were upset that they were not part of the 15th Amendment. And they founded the National Women's Suffrage Movement to push for the right for women to vote. One in particular, named Minor, actually tried to vote in Missouri. She was denied. Her case went finally to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court ruled that constitutionally the right to vote is not included in citizenship. Just think about that one for a minute. Wow. So there are your closed notes. Let's take a look at some of the documents, the two documents I want you to look at. Let's bounce on out of here. One is the excerpt from Andrew Johnson's 1868 State of the Union address. So you got to think about what was going on in 1868. Look back at your notes if you need to. And do your hippo. Hip, hip, hippo. And here we go, our first political cartoon. These are actually two cartoons. We're going to treat them as one. They are both from the August 5th, 1865 edition of the Harper's Weekly, and both by Thomas Nast. And if you'll see, in case you cannot read some of the captions on it, because this is a very old copy, there's the title. That should give you enough and think about the symbolism and all that good stuff here. All righty. So there's a comparison contrast in these two sources that have often appeared on exams. So there you go, your Harper's Weekly, August 5th, 1865. There's your two historical documents. That should give you 1 day of instructional time. Feel free to send me a private comment if you are struggling.